Hello, it's me, Salty. How's it going? Thank you for lurky lurk. Hello, friendos. Hello, VOD watchers. How are we doing? Hope everyone's okay. I moved some steel today. Why did my granddad collect so much steel? I don't know. He thought he was going to make stuff with it, and he just... Why couldn't he have collected like small plastic figurines which weighed nothing? He was a carpenter. Why did he get into steel? I don't know. I found a book of tattoo designs that I had got ages ago. Ari reminded me of it when she was looking for a tattoo of a key. Unfortunately, I have not got any tattoos of keys in here, but if any of you are looking for designs for tattoos or even engraving, I have engraved this particular flower on glass with a Dremel when I was doing that years ago. Just all kinds of pretty things. Got like it's got a whole section of animals. That's a yak. Yeah, that'll do. They're like the traditional kind of tattoos, I guess. Oh, and like it's got like Celtic designs, like borders and things. So if you're into, or you need like art for like a border or something, or anything really. Dragon, phoenix, all kinds of things. So yeah, it's a pretty good book for not just tattoos, but all kinds of things. So yes, no other news really. Right, so last week we were following Takeo in his adventure and his escape from the tribe. He managed to make his way to the temple at, I think it was Terayama. I think that's the name of it. And he found his old friend Makoto, who, riddled with guilt, was going to basically stay the winter at a small hut, which was basically meant he was wanting to die. But then Takeo appeared and chatted with Makoto about his guilt and everything, because he kind of outed Kaede as not having married Shigeru, which is a problem because everyone was addressing Kaede as Lady Otori. And then the one person who could out her as not having married Shigeru came by and said, "Oh, hello." It's like, "Oh, so you married Takeo then?" And everyone's just like, "Oh, that's awkward." But anyway. So yes. And there was also some, it was suggested heavily that Takeo and Makoto slept together at some point, when I think Takeo was grieving Shigeru. It's alright, chat. There's a fly that I cannot seem to get rid of. And we had a truce, but now the fly is annoying me. Well. Okay, so chapter 8. And we're almost finished the book, really. I think there's this chapter and maybe another one to go. Yes. Chapter 9. Okay, yes, so there's 2 chapters left to go. They're pretty long chapters, so we'll probably finish it, I'd say, tomorrow at the latest. So, we return to Kaede's point of view. And she had just lost her child. So she was sick, and in the last chapter, Mikoto told Takeo that she was okay and that she had lost the child. So now we go back to Kaede's point of view. Kaede came back from afar, out of a red landscape, lapped by fire and blood. She had seen terrifying images during her fever. Now she opened her eyes on the familiar light and shade of her parents' house. Often, when she had been a hostage with the Noguchi, she had this dream of waking at home, only to wake properly a few moments later to the reality of life in the castle. She lay still now, eyes closed, waiting for the second waking, aware of something pricking her in the lower part of her belly, and wondering why she should dream of the smell of moxa. I'm not sure what moxa is. She has returned to us. The man's voice, a stranger's, startled her. She felt a hand on her brow and knew it was Shizuka's, remembering feeling it there many times before, when its firm, cool shape was the only thing that came between her mind and the terrors that assailed her. It seemed to be all she could remember. Something had happened to her, but her mind shied away from thinking about it. The movement reminded her of falling. She must have fallen from Takeo's horse, Raku, the little grey horse he had given her. Yes, she had fallen, and she had lost his child. Her eyes filled with tears. She knew she was not thinking clearly, but she knew the child was gone. She felt Shizuka's hand move, and then it returned, holding a cloth, slightly warmed, to wipe her face. "Lady," Shizuka said. "Lady Kaede." Kaede tried to move her own hand, but it seemed to be immobilized, and something pricked her there too. "Don't try to move," Shizuka said. "Lord Fujiwara's physician, Dr. Ishida, has been treating you. You are going to get well now. Don't cry, lady." "It's normal," she heard the physician say. "Those who came close to death always weep when they are brought back, whether from joy or sorrow. I've never been able to tell." Kaede herself did not know. The tears flowed, and when they finally stopped, she fell asleep. For several days she slept, woke, ate a little, and slept again. Then she slept less, but lay with her eyes closed, listening to the household around her. She heard Hana's voice regaining its confidence, Ai's gentle tone, Shizuka singing and scolding Hana, who had taken to following her around like a shadow, trying to please her. It was a house of women. The men stayed away. Women who were aware they had come close to the brink of disaster, and was still not out of danger, but so far had survived. Autumn slowly turned to winter. The only man was the physician who stayed in the guest pavilion and visited her every day. He was small and deft, with long-fingered hands and a quiet voice. Kaede came to trust him, sensing that he did not judge her. He did not think her good or bad. Indeed, he did not think in such terms at all. He only wanted to see her recover. He used techniques he had learned on the mainland, needles of gold and silver, a paste of mugwort leaves burned on the skin, teas brewed from willow bark. Thank you for following, Friendo. Follows are anonymous in this stream, so you can follow at any time. He was the first person she had ever met who had travelled there. Sometimes she lay and listened to his voice, telling Hannah stories of the animals he had seen, huge whales in the sea, and bears and tigers on land. When she was able to get up and walk outside, it was Dr. Ishida who suggested that a ceremony should be held for the lost child. Kaede was carried to the temple in a palanquin, and she knelt for a long time before the shrine to Jizo, the one who looks after the water children who die before they are born. She grieved for the child whose moment of life had been so brief, conceived and extinguished in the midst of violence. Yet it had been a child begun in love. "I will never forget you," she promised in her heart, and prayed it would have a safer passage next time. She felt its spirit was now safe until it began the journey of life again. She made the same prayer for Shigeru's child, realizing she was the only person apart from Shizuka who knew of its brief moment of existence. The tears flowed again, but when she returned home, she did indeed feel that a weight had been lifted from her. Oh right, of course, Shigeru's child that he got with Lady Maruyama, but they didn't tell anyone. "Now you must take up life again," Dr. Ishida told her. "You are young. You will marry and have other children." "I think I am destined not to marry," Kaede replied. He smiled, assuming she was joking. Of course, she thought it was a joke. Women in her position, of her rank, always married, or rather were married, to whoever seemed to offer the most advantageous alliance. But such marriages were arranged by fathers or clan leaders, or other overlords, and she seemed suddenly to be free of all these. Her father was dead, as were most of his senior retainers. The Sesshu clan, to which both the Maruyama and Shirakawa families belonged, was fully occupied with the turmoil that had followed the downfall of the Tohan. And the sudden, unexpected rise of Arai Daichi. Hello, Nonzel Gamer. If you don't already, you should record and put this on YouTube. Love reading, but sometimes you need to multitask. I've thought about that, but this is a rather grey area. This book isn't exactly, what's the word? It's not exactly an open to read book. The only reason I read it on Twitch is because the VODs only last 2 weeks, so who cares? But I did read The Count of Monte Cristo, and I've thought about putting that on YouTube. I think I might just not edit the VODs and just stick the VODs straight on there. But thank you for reminding me, actually. That's something I need to look at. Alright, so... who was there to tell her what to do? Was it Arai now? Should she be making a formal alliance with him, recognizing him as her overlord? And what were the advantages or disadvantages of such a move? You have grown very serious, he said. May I ask what is occupying your mind? You must try not to worry. True, B. That's a good point. What's the worst that could happen? They just, I don't know, block the channel, I guess. I have to decide what to do, she said. I suggest doing nothing until you are stronger. Winter is nearly upon us. You must rest, eat well, and be very careful not to take a chill. And I must consolidate my lands, contact Sugita Hiroki at Maruyama, and tell him I mean to take up my inheritance, and find money and food for my men, she thought, but did not speak this aloud to Ishida. Yeah, that's a good point, B. I'm too cautious. I'm thinking about things that I don't have and probably will never have, so I might as well just YOLO it. As she grew stronger, she began to restore the house before the snows began. Everything was washed, new matting laid, screens repaired, tiles and shingles replaced. Okay.
Take a fucking sip, babes.
Thank you all. Thank you for the hydrate. So, a good tip is not to inhale when you drink your tea. Okay, that was too funny. Gosh, now I'm all red. Okay. Right, I do have an empty YouTube account. My voice has changed now. It's got one clip on it. Whoop-dee. Okay. Where are we? Right, she was restoring the house. The garden was tended again. Rolled a nat 1 trying to drink from a mug. That is a perfect way to put it. Seribot, hello. It's off topic, but we did ponder about scooping you. You are in range. Split last minute to triple the trip time. Okay. Thank you for thinking about me, B. When you and Aska were hinting, I was just like, are they serious? Are they mad enough to drive all the way up here, grab me, and then drive all the way back down? Because that's a long drive. Okay, yes. The garden was tended again. She had little money to pay for anything. But she found men to work for her on the promise of payment in the spring. And every day she learnt more of how a look or a tone of voice won her their devoted service. She moved into her father's rooms, where at last she had unrestricted access to his books. She read and practiced writing for hours at a time, until Shizuka, fearing for her health, brought Hana to distract her. Such a time that you just didn't have access to information. If you wanted to learn something, you had to find someone that knew it. You couldn't just find it online. That was when I grew up. I'm talking about the 80s and 90s. Then Kaede played with her sister, teaching her to read and use the brush like a man. Under Shizuka's strict care, Hana had lost some of her wildness. She was as hungry for learning as Kaede. It's wild being a millennial, finding out that everything you were taught was just misinfo spread the analog way. So much. The teachers just spat so much bull back in those days. I don't know what it's like today, but they just made stuff up. Because it wasn't easy to find stuff out. You had to go to the library, and usually the books were like 5 years out of date. She was as hungry for learning as Kaede. We should both have been born boys, Kaede sighed. Fix that these days too. Father would have been proud of us then, Hana said. Her tongue was pressed against her upper teeth as she concentrated on the characters. Kaede did not reply. She never spoke of her father and tried not to think about him. Indeed, she could no longer clearly distinguish what had actually happened when he died and the feverish imaginings of her illness. She did not question Shizuka and Kondo, afraid of their replies. She had been to the temple, performed the rites of mourning, and ordered a fine stone to be carved for his grave, but she still feared his ghost, which had hovered at the edge of the redness of her fever. Though she clung to the thought, I have done nothing wrong, she could not remember him without a twinge of shame, which she masked with anger. He will be more helpful to me dead than alive, she decided, and let it be known that she was reverting to the name of Shirakawa, since it had been her father's will that she should be his heir and should remain in the family home. If you recall, her father went mad and tried to sexually assault her, and then was promptly killed by Kondo. And they all went, he committed suicide, wink. And I'm a little bit annoyed at the author, actually, about the number of times that Kaede has been sexually assaulted. Like, okay, we get it. Bit of a tangent there. Where are we? When Shoji returned to the house after the period of mourning and began to go through the records and accounts with her, she thought she detected some disapproval in his attitude. And the authors have very visible fascinations, yeah. And I know she's got this reputation now as someone who some reason when men desire her, they die kind of thing. But I think 3 times is a bit much. Although, yeah. I'm getting a cough, so that didn't help. If I ever wrote, there would not be a single cat girl in that book. Not in this book, that's for sure, B, but you should definitely write a cat girl story. Yes, what was I going to say? I can't remember. Oh, that's right, Shoji. Shoji was her father's retainer, his advisor, so she's kind of inherited him. Grumpy old man kind of attitude. Rewrite How to Train Your Dragon. Yes, you definitely have to have some catgirl taming in there. Okay, began to go through the records and accounts with her. She thought she detected some disapproval in his attitude, but the accounts were in such a terrible state that she used her anger to cow him. Pokemon? Ah, interesting. It was hard to believe affairs had been allowed to deteriorate so badly. It seemed impossible to secure enough food for the men she had already and their families, let alone any others she might hope to employ. It was her main source of anxiety. With Kondo, she went through the armour and weapons and gave instructions for repairs to be done and replacements ordered. She came to rely more and more on his experience and judgment. If you remember, Kondo is a member of the tribe, or he's a half member of the tribe, which is why she's on the fence about him. He suggested she should re-establish the domain's borders to prevent encroachment and to maintain the warriors' fighting skills. She agreed, knowing instinctively she had to keep the men occupied and interested. For the first time, she found herself grateful for the years in the castle, for she realized how much she had learnt about warriors and weapons. From then on, Kondo often rode out with 5 or 6 men, making use of these expeditions to bring back information too. She told Kondo and Shizuka to let pieces of information fall among the men. An alliance with Arai, the campaign for Maruyama in the spring, the possibility of advancement and wealth. She saw nothing of Lord Fujiwara, though he sent gifts, quail, dried persimmons, wine, and warm quilted clothes. Ishida returned to the nobleman's residence, and she knew the doctor would inform him of her progress, and certainly would not dare keep any secrets from him. She did not want to meet Fujiwara. It was shameful to have deceived him, and she regretted the loss of his regard for her, but she was also relieved not to see him face to face. His intense interest in her unnerved and repelled her, as much as his white skin and cormorant eyes. If you remember, Lord Fujiwara was the one who he doesn't have a sexual interest in Kaede. He sees her as a rare prize that he wants for his collection. And it's kind of a bit ew, because he wants to basically, we get the impression he wants to lock her up sort of thing as one of his possessions, which is like, it's a bit too possessive there, buddy. He is a useful ally, Shizuka told her. They were in the garden, overseeing the replacement of a crushed stone lantern. It was a cool, clear day of rare sunshine. Kaede was watching a pair of ibis in the rice fields beyond the gate. Their pale pink winter plumage glowed against the bare earth. He's been very kind to me, she said. I know I owe my life to him through Dr. Ishida, but it would not trouble me if I never saw him again. The ibis followed one another through the pools that had collected in the corner of the fields, their curved bills stirring up the muddy water. Anyway, she added, I am flawed for him now. He will despise me more than ever. Shizuka had said nothing of the nobleman's desire to marry Kaede, and she did not mention it now. You must make some decisions, she said quietly. Otherwise we will all starve before spring. I am reluctant to approach anyone, Kaede said. I must not seem like a supplicant, desperate and needy. I know I must go to Arai eventually, but I think it can wait until winter is over. I believe the birds will begin to gather before then, Shizuka said. Arai will send someone to you, I expect. And what about you, Shizuka? Kaede said. The pillar was in position and the new lantern in place. Tonight she would place a lamp in it. It would look beautiful in the frosty garden under the clear sky. Priorities. What will you do? I don't suppose you will stay with me forever, will you? Momin, hello. How you doing? It's good to see you. I'm reading. What will you do? I don't suppose you will stay with me forever, will you? You must have other concerns. What about your sons? You must long to see them. And what are your commands from the tribe? We are reading Grass for His Pillow, which is kind of covered up by the names of the stream avatars. So there we go. By Lian Hern. Here's the very pretty cover for the hardback. It's a little bit worn for some reason, I don't know why. But yes, this is the second book in a series. And I think I'm probably going to upload this series to YouTube and see what happens. Because, I have all the VODs, and I'm recording VODs locally now. When I take a break in a bit, I will talk about VODs and the new Twitch things. Shizuka says, nothing more at the moment than to continue looking after your interests, Shizuka replied. Would they have taken the child as they took Takeo? Kaede said, and then immediately added, Oh, don't answer me. There is no point now. She felt the tears threaten and pressed her lips firmly together. She was silent for a few moments and then went on. I suppose you keep them informed of my actions and decisions too? I send messages from time to time to my uncle, when I thought you were close to death, for instance, and I would tell him of any new developments, if you were to decide to marry again, that sort of thing. I won't be doing that. As the afternoon light began to fade, the pink plumage of the ibis glowed more deeply. It was very still. Now that the workmen had finished, the garden seemed more silent than ever. And in the silence she heard again the promise of the white goddess. be patient. I will marry no one but him, she vowed again. I will be patient. She's referring to Takeo. It was the last day of sunshine. The weather became damp and raw. A few days later, Kondo returned from one of his patrols in the rainstorm. Dismounting rapidly, he called to the women in the house. There are strangers on the road. Lord Arai's men, 5 or 6, and horses. Kaede told him to assemble as many men as possible and give the impression that there were many more at call. Tell the women to prepare food, she said to Shizuka. Everything we have, make it lavish. We must seem to be prospering. Help me change my clothes, and bring my sisters. Then you must stay out of sight. She put on the most elegant robe that Fujiwara had given her, remembering, as she always did, the day she had promised it to Hana. She will get it when it fits her, she thought, and I swear I will be there to see her wear it. Hana and I entered the room, Hana chattering excitedly and jumping up and down to keep warm. Ayame followed, carrying a brazier. Kaede winced when she saw how full of charcoal it was. They would shiver more when Arai's men were gone. Who is coming? I asked nervously. Ever since their father's death and Kaede's illness, she had become more fragile, as if the combined shocks had weakened her. Arise, men. We have to make a good impression. That's why I've borrowed Hana's robe back again. Don't get it dirty, older sister, Hana said, groaning as Ayame began to comb out her hair. Usually she wore it tied back. Loose, it was longer than she was tall. What do they want? I had gone pale. I expect they will tell us, Kaede replied. Do I have to be here? I pleaded. Yes, put on the other robe Lord Fujiwara sent, and help Hana dress. We must all be here together when they arrive. Why? Hana said. Kaede did not answer. She herself hardly knew the reason. She had had a sudden image of the 3 of them in the lonely house, the 3 daughters of Lord Shirakawa, remote, beautiful, dangerous. That was how they must appear to Arai's warriors. All merciful, all compassionate one, help me, she prayed to the white goddess, as Shizuka tied her sash and combed out her hair. She heard the tread of the horses' feet outside the gate, heard Kondo call a welcome to the men. His voice hit just the right note of courtesy and confidence, and she thanked heaven for the tribe's acting skills and hoped hers would be as great. Ayame, show our visitors to the guest pavilion, she said. Give them tea and food, the best tea and the finest pottery. When they finished eating, ask their leader to come here to speak with me. Hana, if you are ready, come and sit down next to me. Shizuka helped Ai with her robe and quickly combed her hair. I will hide where I can hear, she whispered. Open the shutters before you go, Kaede said. We will get the last of the sun. For the rain had ceased, and a fitful sun cast a silvery light over the garden and into the room. What do I have to do? Hana said, kneeling beside Kaede. When the men come in, you must bow at exactly the same moment I do, and then just look as beautiful as you can and sit without moving a muscle while I talk. Is that all? Hannah was disappointed. Watch the men. Study them without seeming to. You can tell me afterwards what you thought of them. You too, Ai. You must give nothing away. React to nothing. Like statues. Ai came and knelt on Kaede's other side. She was trembling, but was able to compose herself. The sun's last rays streamed into the room, setting the dust motes dancing and lighting up the three girls. The newly cleared waterfall, made louder by the rain, could be heard from the garden. A shadow flashed blue as a kingfisher dived from a rock. From the guest room came the murmur of the men's voices. Kaede imagined she could catch their unfamiliar smell. It made her tense. She straightened her back, and her mind turned to ice. She would meet their power with her own. She would remember how easily they could die. Oh, damn. In a little while, she heard Ayame's voice telling the men Lady Shirakawa would receive them now. Shortly after, their leader and one of his companions approached the main house and stepped onto the veranda. Ayame dropped to her knees at the edge of the room, and the retainer also knelt outside. As the other man crossed the threshold, Kaede let him see the three of them, and then bowed to him, touching her forehead to the floor. Hannah and I moved at exactly the same time. The three girls sat up in unison. The warrior knelt and announced, I am Akita Tsutomu from Inuyama. I have been sent to Lady Shirakawa by Lord Arai. He bowed and stayed low. Kaede said, Welcome, Lord Akita. I am grateful to you for your arduous journey, and to Lord Arai for sending you. I am eager to learn how I may serve him. She added, You may sit up. He did so, and she gazed frankly at him. She knew women were supposed to keep their eyes cast down in the presence of men, but she hardly felt like a woman anymore. She wondered if she would ever be that sort of woman again. She realized Hannah and I were staring in the same way at Akita, with opaque, unreadable eyes. He was approaching middle age, his hair still black but beginning to thin. His nose was small but slightly hooked like a bird's, giving him a rapacious look, offset by a well-formed mouth with rather large lips. His clothes were travel-stained but of good quality. His hands were square, short-fingered with strong splayed thumbs. She guessed he would be a practical man, but also a conspirator given to trickery. There was nothing there to trust. Don't really agree with just looking at someone and saying, oh, this guy's tricky. It's like, you can't tell like that. Lord Arai asks after your health, he said, looking at each of the sisters, then returning his gaze to Kaede. It was reported that you were unwell. I am recovered, she replied. You may thank Lord Arai for his concern. He inclined his head slightly. He seemed ill at ease, as if he were more at home among men than among women, and unsure of how to address her. She wondered how much he had heard of her situation, if he knew the cause of her illness. We heard with great regret of Lord Shirakawa's death, he went on. Lord Arai has been concerned about your lack of protection and wishes to make it clear that he considers you to be in as strong an alliance with him as if you were part of his family. Hannah and I turned their heads, exchanged a look with each other, then resumed their silent staring. It seemed to unnerve Akita even more. He cleared his throat. That being the case, Lord Arai wishes to receive you and your sisters at Inuyama to discuss the alliance and Lady Shirakawa's future. Impossible, she thought, though she said nothing for a few moments. Then she spoke, smiling slightly. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. However, my health is not strong enough to permit me to travel yet, and, as we are still mourning our father, it is not fitting that we should leave home. It is late in the year. We will arrange a visit to Inuyama in the spring. You may tell Lord Arai that I consider our alliance unbroken, and I am grateful to him for his protection. I will consult him as far as I am able and keep him informed of my decisions. Again, the look between Hannah and I flashed through the room like lightning. It really is uncanny, Kaede thought, and suddenly wanted to laugh. Akita said, I must urge Lady Shirakawa to return with me. Rude. It is quite impossible, she said, meeting his gaze, and adding, It is not for you to urge me to do anything. The rebuke surprised him. A flush of colour spread around his neck and up to his cheekbones. Hannah and I leant forward very slightly, and their gaze intensified. The sun went behind clouds, darkening the room, and there was a sudden rush of rain on the roof. The bamboo wind chimes rang with a hollow note. Akita said, I apologize. Of course you must do as seems fitting to you. I will come to Inuyama in the spring, she repeated. You may tell Lord Arai that. You are welcome to spend the night here, but I think you will need to leave in the morning to get back before the snow. Lady Shirakawa. He bowed to the floor. As he shuffled out backwards, she asked, Who are your companions? She spoke abruptly, allowing impatience to creep into her voice, knowing instinctively that she had dominated him. Something about the scene, her sisters, her own demeanour had cowed him. She could almost smell it. My sister's son, Sonoda Mitsuru, and 3 of my own retainers. Leave your nephew here. He may enter my service for the winter and escort us to Inuyama. He will be a guarantee of your good faith. He stared at the ground, taken aback at the request. Yet, she thought with anger, any man in her position would have demanded the same. If the young man were in her household, his uncle would be less likely to misrepresent her or otherwise betray her to Arai. Smart. Of course, trust between us is a symbol of my trust in Lord Arai, Kaede said, more impatiently, as he hesitated. I see no reason why he should not stay here, Akita conceded. I have a hostage, she thought, and marvelled at the sense of power it gave her. She bowed to Akita, Hannah and I copying her, while he prostrated himself before them. Rain was still falling when he left, but the sun had struggled out again, turning to fragmented rainbows the drops of water that clung to the bare branches and the last of the autumn leaves. She made a sign to her sisters not to move. Before Akita entered the guest room, he turned to look back at them. They sat motionless until he was out of sight. The sun vanished, and the rain streamed down. Ayame stood from where she had been kneeling in the shadows and closed the shutters. Kaede turned and hugged Hana. "Did I do well?" Hana asked, her eyes lengthened and full of emotion. "It was brilliant, almost like magic. But what was that look between you?" "We should not have done it," I said, ashamed. "It's so childish. We used to do it when Mother or Ayame was teaching us. Hana started it. They never knew if they were imagining it or not. We never dared do it in front of Father. And to do it to a great lord—" "It just seemed to happen," Hana said, laughing. "He didn't like it, did he? His eyes went all jumpy, and he started to sweat." "He is hardly a great lord," Kaede said. "Arai might have sent someone of higher rank." "Would you have done what he asked then? Would we have gone back with him to Inuyama?" "Even if Arai himself had come, I would not," Kaede replied. "I will always make them wait for me." "Do you want to know what else I noticed?" Hana said. "Tell me." "Lord Akita was afraid of you, older sister." "You have sharp eyes," Kaede said, laughing. "I don't want to go away," I said. "I never want to leave home." Kaede gazed at her sister with pity. "You will have to marry some day. You may have to go to Inuyama next year and stay for a while." "Will I have to?" Hana asked. "Maybe," Kaede said. "Lots of men will want to marry you." For the sake of an alliance with me, she thought, saddened that she would have to use her sisters so. "I'll only go if Shizuka comes with us," Hana declared. Kaede smiled and hugged her again. There was no point in telling her that Shizuka could never go in safety to Inuyama while Arai was there. "Go and tell Shizuka to come to me. Ayame, you had better see what meal we can give these men tonight." "I'm glad you told them to leave tomorrow," Ayame said. "I don't think we could afford to feed them for longer. They are too used to eating well." She shook her head. "Though I have to say, Lady Kaede, I don't think your father would have approved of your conduct." "You don't have to say it," Kaede retorted swiftly. "And if you want to stay in this household, you will never speak to me like that again." "Damn, girl." Ayame flinched at her tone. "Lady Shirakawa," she said dully, dropped to her knees and crawled backwards from the room. Shizuka came in shortly, carrying a lamp, for dusk was now falling. "Spicy? Yeah. Kaede is getting used to dominating." Kaede told her sisters to go and change their clothes. "How much did you hear?" she demanded when they had gone. "Enough. And Kondo told me what Lord Akita said when he went back to the pavilion. He thought there was some supernatural power at work in this house. You terrified him. He said you were like the autumn spider, golden and deadly, weaving a web of beauty to captivate men." Quite poetic, Kaede remarked. Yes, Kondo thought so too. Kaede could picture the ironic gleam in his eyes. One day, she promised herself, he would look at her without irony. He would take her seriously. They all would, all these men who thought they were so powerful. And my hostage, Sonoda Mitsuru, is he terrified too? Your hostage? Shizuka laughed. How did you dare suggest that? Was I wrong? No, on the contrary. It made them believe you were much stronger than was first thought. The young man is a little apprehensive about being left here. Where do you intend to put him? Shoji can take him in his house and look after him. I certainly don't want him here. Kaede paused, then went on with a trace of bitterness. He will be better treated than I was. But what about you? He will not be any danger to you, will he? Arai must know I am still with you, Shizuka said. I see no danger from this young man. His uncle, Lord Akita, will be careful not to upset you now. Your strength protects me, all of us. Arai probably expected to find you distraught and desperate for his help. He will hear a very different story. I told you the birds would gather. So who do we expect next? I believe someone will come from Maruyama before the onset of winter, in response to the messengers Kondo sent. Kaede was hoping for the same thing, her mind often turning to her last meeting with her kinswoman, and the promise that had been made then. She's talking about Lady Maruyama, who was Shigeru's paramour, who promised Kaede that she was her heir. So now that Lady Maruyama has passed, in the previous book, Kaede stands to inherit both her father's land and Maruyama. And that's what she's after. She wants her inheritance before she has to deal with Arai. Her father had told her she would have to fight for that inheritance, but she hardly knew who her adversaries would be, or how to set about going to war. Who would teach her how to do it? Who would lead an army on her behalf? She said farewell the next day to Akita and his men, thankful that their stay was so short, and welcomed his nephew, summoning Shoji and handing him over. She was aware of her effect on the young man. He could not take his eyes off her and trembled in her presence. But he did not interest her at all, other than as a hostage. Keep him busy, she told Shoji. Treat him well and with respect, but don't let him know too much of our affairs. Over the next few weeks, men began to turn up at her gate. Some secret message had gone out that she was taking on warriors. They came singly or in twos and threes, never in large groups. Men whose masters were dead or dispossessed, the straggling remnants of years of war. She and Kondo devised tests for them. She did not want rogues or fools, but they did not turn many away, for most were experienced fighters, who would form the kernel of her army when the spring came. Nevertheless, Kaede despaired of being able to feed and keep them all through the long winter. A few days before the solstice, Kondo came to her with the news she had been waiting for. Lord Sugita from Maruyama is here, with several of his men. She welcomed them with delight. They revered the memory of Lady Maruyama and were accustomed to seeing a woman as a leader. She was especially glad to see Sugita, remembering him from the journey to Suwano. He had left them there to return home, to ensure the domain was not attacked and taken over during Lady Maruyama's absence. Filled with grief at her death, he was determined her wishes should be fulfilled. A man of great practicality, he had also brought rice and other provisions with him. "I will not add to your burdens," he told Kaede. "They are not so heavy we cannot feed old friends," she lied. "Everyone is going to suffer this winter," he replied gloomily. "The storms, Aida's death, Arai's campaigns, the harvest is a fraction of what it should be." Kaede invited him to eat with her, something she did with none of the others, whom she left to Shoji and Kondo to look after. They talked briefly about the events at Inuyama, and then at length about the Maruyama inheritance. He treated Kaede with respect, coloured by an affectionate familiarity, as if he were an uncle or a cousin. She felt at ease with him. He was not threatened by her, but he took her seriously. When they had finished eating and the dishes had been cleared away, he said, "It was my lady's desire to see her domain in your care. I was delighted to receive your message that you intend to take up your inheritance. I came at once to tell you that I will help you. Many of us will. We should start to plan our actions before spring." "It is my intention, and I'll need all the help I can get," Kaede replied. "I have no idea how to set about it. Will I be able to simply take the lands over? Who do they belong to now?" "They belong to you," he said. "You are the next female heir, and it was Our Lady's express wish that the domain be yours. But several other people lay claim to it. The main contender is Lady Maruyama's stepdaughter, who is married to a cousin of Lord Aida. Arai has not been able to eradicate him, and he has quite a large force, a mixture of Tohan, who fled from Noguchi Castle when it fell, and disaffected Sesshu, who see no reason why they should submit to Arai. They are wintering in the far west, but they will march on Maruyama in the spring. If you do not move swiftly and boldly, the domain will be fought over and destroyed." "I promised Lady Naomi that I would prevent that happening," Kaede said. "But I didn't know what I was promising or how to achieve it." "There are many people willing to help you," he said, leaning forward and whispering. "I was sent by our Council of Elders to request that you come to us, and soon. The domain prospered under Lady Naomi. We all had enough to eat, and even the poorest could feed their children. We traded with the mainland, mined silver and copper, established many small industries. The alliance between Lord Arai, Lord Otori Shigeru, and the Maruyama would have extended that prosperity all the way into the middle country. We want to save what we can of the alliance." "I plan to visit Lord Arai in the spring," Kaede said. "I will formalize our alliance then." "Then one of your terms must be that he supports you in your claim to Maruyama. Only Arai is strong enough to dissuade the stepdaughter and her husband to retire without fighting. And if it comes to battle, only his army will be large enough to beat them. You must move quickly. As soon as the roads are open again, you must go to Inuyama and then come to us with Arai's backing." He looked at her, smiled slightly and said, "I am sorry. I do not mean to seem to be commanding you in any way, but I hope you will take my advice." "I will," she said. "It is what I had already thought of doing, but with your support, I am encouraged by it." They went on to talk of how many men Sugita could raise, and he swore he would hand over the domain to no one but her. He said he would leave the next day, as he wanted to be back at Maruyama before the new year. Then he said, casually, "It's a shame Otori Takeo is dead. If you had married him, his name and the Otori connection would have made you even stronger." Kaede's heart seemed to stop beating and fall from her chest to her stomach. "I had not heard of his death," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Well, it's only what people are saying. I don't know any details. I suppose it's the obvious explanation for his disappearance. It may only be a rumor." "Maybe," Kaede said, while thinking silently. "Or maybe he is dead in an open field or on the mountain, and I will never know." "I am growing tired, Lord Sugita. Forgive me." "Lady Shirakawa." He bowed to her and stood. "We'll keep in touch as much as the weather allows. I will expect you at Maruyama in the spring. The clan's forces will support your claim. If anything changes, I will get word to you somehow." She promised to do the same, impatient for him to be gone. When he had left, and she was sure he was safely inside the guest pavilion, she called for Shizuka, pacing up and down, and when the girl came, she seized her with both hands. "Are you keeping something from me?" "Lady," Shizuka looked at her in surprise. "What do you mean? What's happened?" "Sugita said he'd heard Takeo was dead." "It's just a rumor." "But you've heard it." "Yes. I don't believe it, though. If he were dead, we would have been told." "You look so pale. Sit down." "You must not overtire yourself. You must not get sick again. I'll prepare the beds." She led her from the main room into the room where they slept. Kaede sank to the floor, her heart still thudding. "Ceiling?" "I'm so afraid he will die before I see him again." Shizuka knelt beside her, untied her sash, and helped her out of the formal robes she had been wearing. "I'll massage your head. Sit still." Kaede was restlessly moving her head from side to side, clutching her hair, clenching and unclenching her fists. Shizuka's hands in her hair did not soothe her. They simply reminded her of the unbearable afternoon at Inuyama and the events that followed. She was shivering. "You must find out, Shizuka. I must know for sure. Send a message to your uncle. Send Kondo. He must leave at once." "I thought you were beginning to forget him," Shizuka murmured, her hands working at Kaede's scalp. "I cannot forget him. I've tried, but as soon as I hear his name it all returns to me. Do you remember the day I first saw him at Suwano? I fell in love with him at that moment. A fever came over me. It is, an enchantment, a sickness from which I can never be cured. You said we would get over it, but we never will." Her brow was burning beneath Shizuka's fingers. Alarmed, the girl asked, "Shall I send for Ishida?" "I am tormented by desire," Kaede said in a low voice. "Dr. Ishida can do nothing for that." "Desire is simple enough to alleviate," Shizuka replied calmly. "But my desire is only for him. Nothing, no one else can relieve it. I know I must try to live without him. I have duties to my family that I will carry out. But if he is dead, you must tell me. I will write to Kenji, Shizuka promised. I'll send Kondo tomorrow, though we cannot really spare him. Send him, Kaede said. Shizuka made an infusion from the willow twigs that Ishida had left and persuaded Kaede to drink it. But her sleep was restless, and in the morning she was listless and feverish. Ishida came, applied moxa, and used his needles, rebuking her gently for not taking better care of herself. It's not serious, he told Shizuka when they stepped outside. It will pass in a day or two. She is too sensitive and makes too many demands on herself. She should marry. She will only agree to marry one man, and that is impossible, Shizuka said. The father of the child? Shizuka nodded. Yesterday she heard a rumor that he was dead. The fever started then. Ah. His eyes had a thoughtful, faraway look. She wondered what or whom he was remembering from his youth. I fear the coming months, she said. Once we are closed in by snow, I'm afraid she will begin to brood. I have a letter for her from Lord Fujiwara. He would like her to visit him and stay for a few days. The change of scene may help to lift her spirits and distract her. Lord Fujiwara is too kind to this house and pays us too great an attention. Shizuka used the formal words of thanks automatically as she took the letter. She was acutely aware of the man next to her, of their hands touching briefly. Ayo. The distant look in his eyes had sparked something in her. During Kaede's illness, they had spent many hours together, and she had come to admire his patience and skill. He was kind, unlike most men she had known. Will you come again tomorrow? She said, glancing at him. Of course. You can give me Lady Kaede's reply to the letter. You will accompany her to Lord Fujiwara's? Of course. She repeated his words playfully. He smiled and touched her again, deliberately on the arm. The pressure of his fingers made her shiver. It was so long since she had slept with a man. She had a sudden strong desire to feel his hands all over her body. She wanted to lie down with him and hold him. He deserved it for his kindness. Till tomorrow, he said, his eyes warm, as if he had recognized her feelings and shared them. She slipped into her sandals and ran to call the servants with the palanquin. Kaede's fever subsided, and by evening she had recovered some of her energy. She had lain still all day, warm under a huge pile of quilts, next to a brazier that Ayame had insisted on lighting, thinking about the future. Takeo might be dead. The child certainly was. Her heart wanted only to follow them to the next world, but her reason told her it would be a sheer weakness to throw her life away and abandon those who depended on her. A woman might act like that. A man in her position never would. Shizuka is right, she thought. There is only one person I know who can help me now. I must see what arrangement I can come to with Fujiwara. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that. Shizuka gave her the letter that Ishida had brought that morning. Fujiwara had also sent gifts for the new year, specially shaped rice cakes, dried sardines, and sweetened chestnuts, rolled kelp, and rice wine. Ooh, rice wine. Hannah and I were busy in the kitchen helping to prepare for the festival. He flatters me. He writes in men's language, saying he knows I can understand it, Kaede said. But there are so many characters I don't know. She sighed deeply. There's so much I need to learn. Is one winter going to be enough? Will you go to Lord Fujiwara's? I suppose so. He might teach me. Do you think he would? There's nothing he'd like more, Shizuka said dryly. I thought he would want nothing more to do with me, but he says he's been waiting for my recovery. I am better, as well as I will ever be. Kaede's voice was doubtful. I must be better. I have to look after my sisters, my land, my men. As I've said many times, Fujiwara is your best ally in this. Maybe not the best, the only, but I don't really trust him. What does he want from me? What do you want from him? Shizuka replied. That's simple. On the one hand, learning. On the other, money and food to raise an army and feed it. But what do I offer him in return? Shizuka wondered if she should mention Fujiwara's desire for marriage, but decided against it, fearing it would disturb Kaede to the point of fever again. Let the nobleman speak for himself. She was sure he would. He addresses me as Lady Shirakawa. I am ashamed to face him after deceiving him. He will have learnt of your father's wishes regarding your name, Shizuka said. Everyone knows that your father named you as his heir before his death. We have made sure of that. Kaede glanced at her to see if she was mocking her, but Shizuka's face was serious. Of course, I had to do as my father requested, she agreed. There is nothing else Lord Fujiwara needs to know. Filial obedience comes before everything. So Kung Fu Su tells me, Kaede said. Lord Fujiwara needs to know nothing else, but I suspect he wants to know a great deal more. Avalon, 10-month. Thank you. Where is the alert?
You are my most favorite creation.
The alert is in my heart. Aww. Avalon, thank you. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to complain about the new Twitch stuff. I had a look at the preview of the on-screen celebration. How is my local recording supposed to capture a Twitch on-screen celebration? How? How is it supposed to capture that? Exactly. Fucking bullshit. You had 4 people redeem big emote in my stream. Didn't even know. Oh, dodgy. Twitch is held together with duct tape. Because the OBS chat doesn't show it. Although, OBS chat should... I always thought OBS chat was a HTML feed from Twitch chat. DG pleasure tech matching. You don't use default. Ah, okay. Although, yeah, I haven't tested it in my OBS yet. But I've got like chat, and I've got chat arena, and I've got that chat, and I've also got the bot chat. I've got 4 chats open on my screen. don't know why. It's because I've got an ultra widescreen main monitor, and I just luxuriate in the number of chats that I have open. So yes, you can't disable the on-screen celebration. So I just set it to a ridiculous number. So there you go. Default is just a web page of popped out browser chat. Ah, that's what I thought. Okay, good. So yes, okay. Lord Fujiwara needs to know nothing except needs to know nothing else, but I suspect he wants to know a great deal more. If he is still interested in me, that is. He will be, Shizuka assured her, thinking that Kaede was more beautiful than ever. Her illness and grief had removed the last traces of childishness from her, and had given her expression depth and mystery. Oh, mystery. They celebrated the new year with Fujiwara's gifts, and ate buckwheat noodles and black beans that Ayame had put away at the end of summer. At midnight, they went to the temple and listened to the priests chanting and the bells tolling for the extinction of human passions. Tolling for the extinction of human passions. Weird priests. Kaede knew she should pray to be freed from them and to be purified, but found herself asking for what she most desired, for Takeo to be alive, and then for money and power. The following day, the women of the household took candles, incense, and lanterns, wrinkled mandarins, sweet chestnuts and dried persimmons, and went to the caves where the Shirakawa River emerged from a series of underground caverns. Here they performed their own ceremonies before the rock that the water had turned into the shape of the white goddess. No men were ever supposed to come into this place. If they did, the mountain might fall, and the Shirakawa be extinguished. An aged couple lived behind the shrine at the entrance to the cave. Only the old woman went inside to take the offerings to the goddess. Kaede knelt on the damp rock, listening to the ancient voice mumble words she hardly knew the meaning of. She thought of her mother and Lady Maruyama, and asked for their help and their intercession. She realized how much this holy place meant to her, and she felt that the goddess was watching over her. The next day, she went to Lord Fujiwara's. Hana was bitterly disappointed at being left behind, and wept when she had to say goodbye not only to Kaede, but also to Shizuka. "It's only for a few days," Kaede said. "Why can't I come with you? Lord Fujiwara did not invite you. Besides, you would hate it there. You would have to behave properly, speak in formal language, and sit still most of the day." "Will you hate it?" "I expect I will," Kaede sighed. "At least you will eat delicious food," Hana said, adding longingly, "Quail." "If we are eating his food, there will be more for you here," Kaede replied. It was in fact one of the reasons she was happy to be away for a while, for no matter how many times she looked at the food stores and calculated the days of winter, it remained obvious that they would run out of food before spring. "And someone has to entertain young Mitsuru," Shizuka added. "You must make sure he is not too homesick." I can do that, Hannah retorted. He likes I. Kaede had noticed the same thing. Her sister had not admitted any affection in return, but she was shy about such matters. And anyway, Kaede thought, what difference did her feelings make? I would have to be betrothed soon. The new year had seen her turn 14. It might be that Sonoda Mitsuru, if his uncle were to adopt him, would be a good match, but she would not relinquish her sister cheaply. In a year they'll be lining up for marriages with the Shirakawa, she told herself. I had coloured a little at Hannah's remark. Take care of yourself, older sister, she said, embracing Kaede. Don't worry about us. I'll look after everything here. We are not far away, Kaede replied. You must send for me if you think I am needed. She could not help adding, and if any messages come for me, if Kondo returns, let me know at once. They arrived at Lord Fujiwara's in the early afternoon. The day had begun mild and overcast, but even as they travelled the wind swung to the northeast and the temperature dropped. Mamoru met them, conveyed the nobleman's greetings, and led them, not to the guest rooms where they had stayed before, but to another, smaller pavilion, less ornately decorated, but to Kaede's eyes even more beautiful, with its elegant simplicity and muted colours. She was grateful for this thoughtfulness, for she had been dreading seeing her father's angry ghost in the room where her secret had been revealed to him. Lord Fujiwara thought Lady Shirakawa would prefer to rest this evening, Mamoru said quietly. He will receive you tomorrow, if that is agreeable to you. Thank you, Kaede said. Please tell Lord Fujiwara I am completely at his service. I will do whatever he desires. She was already aware of tension. Mamoru had used her name without hesitation, had glanced at her swiftly when she arrived, as if trying to discern any change in her, but since then had not looked at her at all. However, she knew already how much he saw of her without appearing to. She straightened her back and gazed at him with a hint of disdain in her expression. Let him study her all he liked as a subject for the roles he played on stage. He would never be other than a counterfeit of what she was. She did not care what he thought of her. But she did care what Fujiwara thought. He must despise me, she told herself. But if he shows it by so much as a flicker of one eyebrow, I'll leave and never see him again, no matter what he might do for me. She was relieved that the meeting was to be postponed. Ishida paid them a call and checked her pulse and eyes. He told her he would prepare a new sort of tea that would purify the blood and strengthen the stomach, and asked her to send Shizuka to his rooms the following day to collect it. A hot bath had been prepared, making Kaede warm not only from the water, but also with envy at the amount of wood available to heat it. Afterwards, food was brought to their room by maids who hardly spoke at all. It is the traditional ladies' winter meal, Shizuka exclaimed when she saw the delicacies of the season. Raw sea bream and squid, broiled eel with green perilla and horseradish, pickled cucumbers, and salted lotus root, rare black mushrooms and burdock, laid out on lacquer trays. This is what they would eat in the capital. I wonder how many other women in the 3 countries are eating something this exquisite tonight. Everything is exquisite here, Kaede replied. How easy it is, she thought, to have luxury and taste when you have money. They had finished eating and were thinking about retiring when there was a tap outside the door. The maids have come to prepare the beds, Shizuka said, and went to the door. But when she slid it open, it was Mamoru who stood outside. There was snow on his hair. Forgive me, he said, but the first snow of the year has begun to fall. Lord Fujiwara wishes to visit Lady Shirakawa. The view from this pavilion is particularly fine. This is Lord Fujiwara's house, Kaede said. I am his guest. Whatever is his pleasure is also mine. Mamoru left, and she heard him speak to the maids. A few moments later, 2 of them came to the room, with warm red quilted robes, which they dressed her in. Hello, sunny day enjoyer. How you doing? Accompanied by Shizuka, she went out onto the veranda. Animal skins had been placed over cushions for them to sit on. I'm good, thank you. Just deciding if I'm coming down with a cough or not. Lanterns had been hung from the trees.
Take a fucking sip, babes.
It's okay, I have been sipping. Lanterns had been hung from the trees, lighting the falling flakes. The ground was already white. A garden of rocks lay under 2 pine trees that grew in low, beautifully trained patterns, framing the view. Behind them, the dull mass of the mountain was just visible through the swirling snow. Kaede was silent, transfixed by the beauty of the scene, its silent purity. Moving so quietly that they hardly heard him, Lord Fujiwara approached them. They both knelt before him. Lady Shirakawa, he said, I am so grateful to you. First, for condescending to visit my humble place, and secondly, for indulging my whim to share the first snow viewing with you. Please sit up, he added. You must wrap yourself up well. You must not catch cold. Servants filed behind him, bringing braziers, flasks of wine, cups, and furs. Mamoru took one of the furs and placed it over her shoulders, then wrapped another around Fujiwara as he sat beside her. Kaede stroked the pelt with a mixture of delight and revulsion. They come from the mainland, Fujiwara told her after they had exchanged formal greetings. Ishida brings them back when he goes on his expeditions there. What animal is it? Some kind of bear, I believe. She could not imagine a bear so large. She tried to picture it in its native land, so distant and foreign to her. It would be powerful, slow-moving, ferocious, yet men had killed and skinned it. She wondered if its spirit still dwelt somehow in the skin, and if it would resent her wearing its warmth. She shivered. Dr. Ishida is brave as well as clever to go on such dangerous journeys. He has an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, it seems. Of course, it has all been rewarded by Lady Shirakawa's recovery. I owe him my life, she said in a low voice. Then he is even more precious to me than on his own account. She detected his usual irony, but no contempt. Indeed, he could hardly be more flattering. How lovely the first snow is, she said, yet by the end of winter we long for it to melt. Snow pleases me, he said. I like its whiteness and the way it wraps the world. Beneath it, everything becomes clean. Mamoru poured wine and passed it to them. Then he vanished into the shadows. The servants withdrew. They were not really alone, yet there was an illusion of solitude, as though nothing existed but the two of them, the glowing braziers, the heavy animal furs, and the snow. After they had watched it in silence for a while, Fujiwara called to the servants to bring more lamps. I want to see your face, he said, leaning forward and studying her in the same hungry way he had gazed on his treasures. Kaede raised her eyes and looked past him at the snow, now falling more thickly, swirling in the light from the lanterns, blocking out the mountains, blurring the outside world. Possibly more beautiful than ever, he said quietly. She thought she detected a note of relief in his voice. She knew that if her illness had marred her in any way, he would have withdrawn politely, and never would have seen her again. They could all have starved to death at Shirakawa, with no gesture of compassion or help from him. How cold he is, she thought, and felt her own body chill in response. Yet she made no sign of it, just continued to gaze past him, letting the snow fill her eyes and dazzle her. She would be cold, like ice, like celadon. And if he wanted to possess her, he would pay the highest price. He drank, filled his cup, and drank again, his eyes never leaving her face. Neither of them spoke. Finally, he said abruptly, Of course, you will have to marry. I have no intention of marrying, Kaede replied, and then feared she had spoken too bluntly. I imagined you would say that since you always hold a different opinion to the world. But in all practical terms, you must be married. There is no alternative. My reputation is very unfavorable, Kaede said. Too many men connected with me have perished. I do not want to be the cause of any more deaths. She felt his interest deepen, noticed the curve of his mouth increase slightly. Yet it was not with desire for her. She knew that. It was the same emotion she had caught a whiff of before, a burning curiosity, carefully controlled, to know all her secrets. He called to Mamoru, telling him to send the servants away and retire himself. Where is your woman? He said to Kaede. Tell her to wait for you inside. I want to speak to you privately. Kaede spoke to Shizuka. After a pause, Fujiwara went on. Are you warm enough? You must not be ill again. Ishida tells me you are prone to sudden fevers. Of course Ishida would tell him everything about me, Kaede thought as she replied. Thank you. I am warm enough for the moment. But Lord Fujiwara will forgive me if I do not stay up long. I become tired very easily. We will talk for a little while, he said. We have many weeks before us, I hope. All winter, in fact. But there is something about this night. The snow. Your presence here. It's a memory that will stay with us all our lives. He wants to marry me, Kaede thought with a sense of shock, followed by deep unease. If he offered marriage, how could she refuse? To use his own phrase, in all practical terms, it made perfect sense. It was a far greater honour than she deserved. It would solve all her problems of money and food. It was a highly desirable alliance. Yet, she knew his preference was for men. He neither loved nor desired her. She prayed he would not speak, for she did not see how she could refuse him. She was afraid of the strength of his will, which always took what it wanted, and always had its own way. She doubted her own strength to deny him. Not only would it be an unthinkable insult to someone of his rank, but he fascinated her as much as he alarmed her, and this gave him a power over her that she barely understood. I have never seen a bear, she said, hoping to change the subject, drawing the heavy skin closer around her. We have small bears here in the mountains. One came to the garden once after a particularly long winter. I had it captured and caged for a while, but it pined and died. It was nothing like this size. Ishida will tell us of his travels one day. Would you like that? Very much. He is the only person I know who has ever been to the mainland. It's a dangerous voyage. Quite apart from the storms, there are often encounters with pirates. At that moment, Kaede felt she would rather meet a dozen bears or 20 pirates than remain with this unnerving man. She could think of nothing else to say. Indeed, she felt powerless to move at all. Mamoru and Ishida have both told me what people say about you, that desire for you brings death. Kaede said nothing. I will not be ashamed, she thought. I have done nothing wrong. She lifted her eyes and looked at him directly, her face calm, her gaze steady. Yet, from what Ishida tells me, one man who desired you escaped death. She felt her heart twist and jump like a fish when it finds its living flesh pierced by the cook's knife. His eyes flickered. A small muscle twitched in his cheek. He looked away from her at the snow. He is asking what should not be asked, she thought. I will tell him, but he will pay a price for it. Good on you. As she saw his weakness, she became aware of her own power. Her courage began to return. Who was it? He whispered. The night was silent, apart from the soft drift of snow, the wind in the pines, the murmur of water. Lord Otori Takeo, she said. Yes, it could only be him, he replied, making her wonder what she had given away before and what he knew about Takeo now. He leaned forward, his face moving into the lamplight. Tell me about it, I could tell you many things, she said slowly, about Lord Shigeru's betrayal and death, and Lord Takeo's revenge, and what happened the night Aida died and Inuyama fell. But every story comes at a price. What will you give me in return? He smiled, and in a tone of complicity said, What does Lady Shirakawa desire? I need money to hire men and equip them, and food for my household. He came close to laughing. Most women your age would ask for a new fan or a robe, but you are always able to surprise me. Do you accept my price? She felt she had nothing to lose now from boldness. Yes, I do. For Aida, money. For Shigeru, bushels of rice. And for the living one, I assume he still lives. What shall I pay you for Takeo's story? His voice changed as he spoke the name, as though he were tasting it in his mouth, and she wondered again what he had heard about Takeo. Teach me, she said. There are so many things I need to know. Teach me as if I were a boy. He inclined his head in agreement. It will be a pleasure to continue your father's instruction. But everything must be kept secret between us. Like the treasures of your collection, nothing must be exposed. I will divulge these things only for your gaze. No one else must ever be told them. That makes them all the more precious, all the more desirable. No one else has ever heard them, Kaede whispered. And once I have told you, I will never speak of them again. The wind had risen a little, and a flurry of snow blew onto the veranda, the flakes hissing as they'd hit the lamps and braziers. Kaede could feel cold creeping over her, meeting her coldness of heart and spirit. She longed to leave him, yet knew she could not move until he released her. You are cold, he said, and clapped his hands. The servants appeared out of the shadows and helped Kaede to her feet, lifting the heavy fur from her. I look forward to your stories, he said, wishing her good night with unusual warmth. But Kaede found herself wondering if she had not made a pact with a demon from hell. She prayed he would not ask her to marry him. She would never allow him to cage her in this luxurious, beautiful house, concealed like a treasure, to be gazed on only by him. At the end of the week, she returned home. The first snow had melted and frozen, and the road was icy but passable. Icicles hung from the eaves of the houses, dripping in the sun, glistening and brilliant. Fujiwara had kept his word. He was a rigorous and demanding teacher, and he had set her tasks to practice before she returned to his house again. He had already dispatched food for her household and men. The days had been spent in study, and the nights in storytelling. She knew by instinct what he wanted to hear, and she told him details she had not known she remembered. The colour of flowers, the birds' song, the exact condition of the weather, the touch of a hand, the smell of a robe, the way lamplight fell on a face, and the undercurrents of desire and conspiracy that she had both known and not known, and that only now became clear to her with the telling. She told him everything, in a clear, measured voice, showing neither shame, grief, nor regret. He was reluctant to allow her to return home, but she used her sisters as an excuse. He wanted her to stay there forever, she knew, and she fought that desire silently. Yet it seemed that everyone shared it. The servants expected it, and their treatment of her changed slightly. They deferred to her as though she were already more than a specially favoured guest. They sought her permission, her opinion, and she knew they would only do so if he had so ordered. She felt deep relief when she left him, and she dreaded returning again. Yet, when she was home, she saw the food, the firewood, and the money he had sent, and was grateful that he had kept her family from starving. That night she lay thinking, I am trapped. I shall never escape him. Yet, what else can I do? It was a long time before she slept, and she was late rising the next morning. Shizuka was not in the room when she woke. Kaede called to her, and Ayame came in with tea. She poured Kaede a cup. Shizuka is with Kondo, she said. He returned late last night. Tell her to come to me, Kaede said. She looked at the tea as though she did not know what to do with it. She sipped a mouthful, placed the cup on the tray, then picked it up. Her hands were icy. She held the cup between them, trying to warm them. Lord Fujiwara sent this tea, Ayame said. A whole box of it. Isn't it delicious? Fetch Shizuka, Kaede cried angrily. Tell her to come to me at once. I hope that wasn't too loud. A few minutes later, Shizuka came into the room and knelt in front of Kaede. Her face was sombre. What is it? Kaede said. Is he dead? The cup began to shake in her hands, spilling the tea. Shizuka took it from her and held her hands tightly. You must not become distressed. You must not become ill. He is not dead, but he has left the tribe, and they have issued an edict against him. What does that mean? You remember what he told you at Teriyama. If he did not go with them, they would not allow him to live. It is the same. Why? Kaede said. Why? I don't understand. It's the way the tribe are. Obedience is everything to them. So why would he leave them? It's not clear. There was some altercation, some disagreement. He was sent on a mission and never came back from it. Shizuka paused. Kondo thinks he may be at Teriyama. If he is, he'll be safe there for the winter. Kaede pulled her hands away from Shizuka and stood. I must go there. It is impossible, Shizuka said. It's already closed off by snow. I must see him, Kaede said, her eyes blazing in her pale face. If he has left the tribe, he will become Otori again. If he is Otori, we can marry. Lady, Shizuka stood too. What madness is this? You cannot just take after him like that. Even if the roads were open, it would be unthinkable. Better by far if you want what you say you want, to marry Fujiwara. It is what he desires. Kaede struggled to regain control of herself. There is nothing to stop me going to Teriyama. Indeed, I should go there. on a pilgrimage to give thanks toward the All-Merciful One for saving my life. I have promised to go to Inuyama, to Arai as soon as the snows melt. I shall go to the temple on the way, even if Lord Fujiwara does want to marry me. I can do nothing without consulting Lord Arai. Oh, Shizuka, how long is it till spring? End of chapter 8.